The crabs moved into Pacific Ocean waters. They are dead because predators got them. They are dead because they ate each other. The crabs scuttled off the continental shelf and scientists just didn't see them. Alien abduction. Get a curated selection of 10 of our best stories in your inbox every weekend. Okay, not that last one. But everyone agrees on one point: the disappearance of Alaska's snow crabs probably is connected to climate change. Marine biologists and those in the fishing industry fear the precipitous and unexpected crash of this luxury seafood item is a harbinger, a warning about how quickly a fishery can be wiped out in this new, volatile world. Harvests of Alaskan king crab, the bigger, craggier species that was the star of the television show, have been on a slow decline for over a decade. But in 2018 and 2019, scientists had seemingly great news about Alaska's snow crabs. Record numbers of juvenile crabs were zooming around the ocean bottom, suggesting a massive haul for subsequent fishing seasons. Scientists, despite earlier optimistic signs, found that snow crab stocks were down 90%. The season opened and the total allowable harvest went from 45 million pounds to 5.5 million pounds. In October 2021, the Alaska Department of Fish and Game closed the king crab season entirely to harvesting, for the first time since the 1990s. King crabs are massive, up to 20 pounds each, with thick, spiky shells that diners. Snow crabs are between 2 and 4 pounds and have thinner shells that can be cracked with your hands. Snow crabs are the biggest crab industry in Alaska and, while still a splurge, they tend to be much less expensive than kings. Both have sweet, briny white meat that pulls out in long pieces. What happened with snow crabs is an example of the kind of rapid changes in resource availability that climate change is making commonplace beneath the sea. In some cases, the abrupt changes are apparent when species flourish. It does seem that these rapid changes can have extreme consequences. mature aboard the Silver Spray. Coils of line lie atop the pot and clear of the deck to reduce the chance of someone being entangled and dragged overboard when the pot is launched. A bait setup cod and the bag filled with ground herring hangs inside the pot. Collaborative survey project began mid-March, funded primarily by NOAA Fisheries, and the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, ADFG, with help from the Bering Sea Fisheries Research Foundation, BSFRF, and the Alaska Bering Sea Crabbers Trade Organization, ABSC. These organizations got 2 boats back out surveying for 25 days.
This surveying effort will inform spatial management decisions and the possible red king crab season openings as early as the fall. Over a dozen vessels were eager to get back to work, and the 2 randomly selected were the F.V. Summer Bay and F.V. Silver Spray. The last 2 eastern Bering Sea trawl surveys indicated a continuing decline in Alaska red king crabs in the 2021 and 2022 fall seasons, with female levels falling below the threshold to close the fishery. More specifically, the surveys showed a continuing low abundance of mature females, while the male king crab has shown some stability. Researchers say the fishery will not open again until the stock levels of females increase enough for it not to be a concern. This presented the opportunity for those in most aspects of the industry to come together and do what they love, all on the same boat. The 2 boats, crew, researchers, and scientists collected data through hot surveying to further understand the winter and spring season distribution, deployment of satellite tags to better understand crab movement, measuring and sexing each crab, determining maturity and growth. Together the 2 boats deployed tags on over 100 male king crabs. Due to the cost of the devices, the project supported roughly 50 tags apiece. However, they are tagging in different areas to understand movement trends going into the spring season. The tags will stay on the outside of the crab's shell over the next few months until they are triggered to be released by the device. The tags will then float to the surface and ping the satellites which receive the data and send it back to the researchers at NOAA and ADFG. The researchers and scientists of NOAA and ADFG will analyze the data collected. The survey results will be crucial information to determine where the crabs are in the winter and what's next for management of this stock. Together the 2 boats deployed tags on over 100 male king crabs. Due to the cost of the devices, the project supported roughly 50 tags apiece. However, they are tagging in different areas to understand movement trends going into the spring season. The tags will stay on the outside of the crab's shell over the next few months until they are triggered to be released by the device. The tags will then float to the surface and ping the satellites which receive the data and send it back to the researchers at NOAA and ADFG. The researchers and scientists of NOAA and ADFG will analyze the data collected. The survey results will be crucial information to determine where the crabs are in the winter and what's next for management of this stock. There is an extreme need to return king crab fishermen to work, affecting Alaska's communities and families along the coast. While this research is being gathered and collected by state and federal agencies, it is being brought to life and quite literally to the sorting table by the hard-working crews of our Bering Sea vessels. Prout shared, "The fishing community would love to see more research vessels out there. So many of us are tied up due to low quotas and crab closures." The opportunity of this survey has brought a sense of hope to the king crab fleet in Alaska, and the guys out there are grateful for the time they were able to get back to work and see crabs on the deck again. With the trust of this bringing good news to the community, fishermen are hopeful that this can lead to helpful management decisions made by the state and North Pacific Fisheries Management Council to help stocks recover and get seasons open once more. Over the past years, the Bering Sea king crab fleet has taken measures to increase soak time, which helps smaller crabs and other species filter out of the pot before being hauled on board. Larger mesh sizes have also been a crucial step in helping fishermen result in fewer regulatory discards. Part of that research was planned for this trip but wasn't completed due to harsh weather conditions. Regardless, soak time and mesh size gear work is part of continuing helpful research for crabbers. Further surveying practices on Alaska king crab will give the industry answers, but in the meantime, Prout and the rest of the crew hope for more opportunities to get back out on the water. Crab cages, also known as crab pots or crab traps, are used to catch crabs while fishing. These cages are typically made of wire mesh or netting and have one or more entrance funnels to allow crabs to enter but make it difficult for them to escape. When a crab enters the cage to reach the bait, it triggers a mechanism that closes the entrance, preventing the crab from leaving. The bait, often fish or chicken parts, lures the crabs into the cage. Once the cage is lifted from the water, the crabs are collected and the cage is reset for the next catch. This method is commonly used by recreational and commercial fishermen to catch crabs in coastal areas. A bait is placed in a chamber in the center of the trap, usually something that is oily or aromatic. This draws the crabs toward the traps as the currents carry the scent downstream. Once the crabs find the trap, they typically crawl all over the trap trying to get in. Once they find the entrances and crawl in, they cannot find their way back out. The entrances to the traps have a decreasing diameter the deeper the crab goes until it gets into the main chamber of the trap, which does not allow him to get back through the way he came. These traps are based on a funnel-like tubular entryway, easy for the hungry crabs to enter to reach the centrally located bait holder, but hard for the crabs to exit because the funnel mouth is rigid and suspended in the trap above the trap floor. The crabs crawl around the floor and sides of the trap but never encounter the exit. Note: fish have the same vulnerability issues as crabs. in the form of pound nets and fish weirs, often a double funnel, the fish moving at depth encountering net fence that leads them offshore, towards deeper water, into a series of funnels, two, and a holding net. How can you catch a lot of crabs? Not sure if this will work for you in the South China Sea over there, but this is how we caught enough Chesapeake Bay blue crab to feed 4 of us for days. Get some chicken necks or backs. Put them in a plastic bag, squeeze the air out and tie or zip it closed. Put your chicken parts out in the sun until you're afraid to open it, cause it's looking puffed up. Take your bag to a dock, quay or pier where you have undisturbed access to water between 5 to 12 feet, 2 to 4 meters deep, and the surface is close enough for you to reach in about elbow deep without falling off of the dock. Helps a little if you're not too drunk yet, but if you're careful it doesn't really matter much at this point. Lay down on the dock and submerge the bag in the water before you open it up. I do not recommend doing this above the surface or anywhere near your nose. You have been warned. Pass the bag to your buddy. Well, go get some string or fishing line and whack off a piece long enough to tie around your chicken chunk and reach the bottom. Don't worry if you can't afford the pricey clear or camouflage monofilament. Plain cotton string works fine. Crabs are not known for their intellectual prowess, and if they do see the string, there's a damned good chance they won't suspect a thing. Slowly pull up the string until you can just see the chicken chunk and the voracious little crustaceans ripping it to shreds and jamming it into what passes for a face on a crab. Slowly pull up the string until you can just see the chicken chunk and the voracious little crustaceans ripping it to shreds and jamming it into what passes for a face on a crab. This is the tricky part. Reach your free hand under the biggest crab, and ease in slowly towards the rear center of the crab. Using a 3-finger grab, thumb on top, snatch that dude out of the water and throw him quickly into your bucket or cooler. Should be room in the cooler since everybody's had 2 or 3 beers by now. It's at this point you will discover whether or not you tucked your pinky and third fingers properly against your palm. If you haven't, you will now have a pissed off crab clamped onto one of your improperly tucked away digits, but you may not realize it until the little bastard doesn't drop neatly into the cooler, but is swinging that other claw into clamp on some other piece of you. If you're past half drunk, you may not feel it right away, but you will soon. As your pals guffaw hysterically, whack the crab onto the dock or the bucket, cooler's edge until the claw breaks off. Do not try to pull the crab off. That only gives him a place to get a grip with his free claw, and this may result in one of your crabbing buddies rolling right off the dock and into the water, cause he's laughing. Need to know how to cook king crab legs? You've come to the right place. Keep reading to learn everything you need to know about cooking king crab legs. When our Alaskan king crab arrives at your doorstep, it will already be cooked, glazed and frozen. The king crab will have either been cooked on the fishing boats or immediately upon landfall in order to preserve its fresh, delicious taste. So, you will just need to thaw the legs and reheat the crab before you start enjoying. Upon receiving your crab legs, first and foremost, place the crab in your refrigerator to thaw overnight, 8 to 12 hours. The next day, it will be ready to reheat and prepare. Cooking king crab legs isn't difficult, and they only takes a few minutes to prepare. The way you choose to cook your king crab will depend on the taste that you want to achieve. Below we've listed some of the more popular ways to cook king crab. Steaming is one of the best options for cooking king crab. Simply place 2 cups of water and a tablespoon of salt in a pot and bring it to a boil. The pot should be about 1/3 of the way filled with water. Place the crab legs in the pot on a rack or colander over the boiling water. Cover with a lid and cook for 6 to 10 minutes, or until the crab is completely heated. When they begin to emit a cooked odor, they should be ready to eat. Boiling is a simple method for cooking king crab. To boil crab legs, simply fill a large saucepan half full of cold water and bring to a boil. Add a tablespoon of salt and the seasoning of your choice, if any. When the water begins to boil, add the crab legs and reduce the heat to medium. Allow them to simmer for about 6 minutes. Take the crab legs out of the water, rinse and plate for eating. Learn everything you need to know to plan the perfect crab boil.